wait to see how that pans out. But NBC in particular has been having a pretty rough go of things when it comes to what their media personalities are saying, the angles they're trying to go for when it comes to speaking to the American people. And I hope it's not falling on deaf ears, because it is actually hilarious. We're going to start off with Joy Reid, who says Republicans, quote, taught people the word inflation. Most people have never used that word ever in their lives. Of course, she's saying this because a lot of Americans are concerned about the state of the economy in the present day, and it's probably going to influence what they do at the polls in the midterms. So here's what Joy Reid had to say about inflation as an issue.
The people I ever heard here use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word, and they sort of wrap this word around whatever it is that they really want to vote. The reasons they really want to vote. But people I ever heard you.
She can't even get it out because it's just so ridiculous what she's trying to say. Like, you guys didn't know what inflation is? I get it, that we're all probably not economists walking around discussing the state of inflation and how it's affecting our pocketbooks, but we know that when we're going to buy gas and we're paying, what did I pay the other day, $6.88 per gallon of gas? I think we can look at that and go, oh, I feel like there's a little bit of inflation happening right now. Or when you go to buy groceries and you realize that what you're getting from your paycheck is not quite consistent with how much you're paying for the food that you're using to feed yourself and your family. I think we can all recognize when we are dealing with inflation. And of course it's a hot button issue, because it's a hot button problem that everybody's dealing with right now and everybody's seeing. And what a condescending thing to say, that you've just been taught the word. You're just parroting talking points from the Republican candidates who are feeding you new definitions of apparently new words that are not a part of the American lexicon.
Yeah, gas isn't actually expensive. It's just a right-wing conspiracy to make you
Right.
believe it's expensive by
Right.
teaching. It's not the fact that things are actually unaffordable and it's $6.80 a gallon here in California. It's just what the right wing is making you believe about these things.
And it's always what they do, man. It's so crazy. I think, like, right off the top of my head, think about what happened with critical race theory. Is we caught on to what they were doing in schools, and we recognized the name of it was critical race theory because it was a law theory written and practiced and
Okay. The American Democrats and their media, just like our PAP and our media, behaving the same kind of way, the same kind of pattern, isn't it? Being unable to beat you in terms of logic, in terms of intellectual discussion, and then they try to beat you down in other ways, in non-intellectual ways, right? In very anti-intellectual ways. They say, oh, inflation. We didn't use that word inflation. We didn't know that word inflation. It's a new word. It's a new word now used by the Republicans, something that is so far off, so difficult to understand. It takes an economist to understand. Doesn't that all sound so familiar? Right? We need experts to tell us what's right and what's wrong. And every time you have a different narrative, the government will come out and say, oh no, the experts said this, the experts said that. But what about the ex-experts? Ex-economist Yo Lam Keong, just for questioning and challenging the government narrative on HDB flat pricing, losses and gains, got puff marked. He's an expert too, isn't he? Isn't he an expert too? I mean, Pritam Singh asked that question in Parliament. Isn't he an ex-GIC economist? The reply was, oh, there is no rule stating that a former economist of GIC cannot be puff marked. Yeah, of course. But then we are, it's ridiculous because we are every time when there is a different opinion, You guys keep coming out with expert opinion, right? You guys keep saying, oh, this is from the experts, listen from the experts. And now a real expert is telling it like it is, and then you pofma him. You see, so it is never about the truth. Whether it is the PAP or the Democrats in America, it is never about the truth. It is always about power. It is always about controlling who can say what, right? And for things as simple as inflation, you know, I'm amazed at how the Democrat Party in America is even beating the PAP in this. I don't think even the PAP dares to say that, you know, inflation is a new word, right? The most they did was flooding, you know, is a wrong word. Let's say ponding. Let's start to use the word ponding instead of flooding. You know, flooding, it is not the right word to use. There is a different definition for flooding. Let's use ponding, okay? It's equally ridiculous, okay? But I think this one by the Democrats parties really takes the cake, okay? Now, even saying inflation, you're using a word that is like bizarre, you're using a word that is like a big word, a word that was never used before. I think this is a fucking joke, okay? This is a bloody joke, okay? Even in Singapore, this is going to, even the PAP doesn't dare to say that inflation is a word that is so new, that nobody knows, that nobody understands. I think let's cut it out. Let's cut it out. Okay? Prepare for a red wave today in the US midterm elections. And I'm also looking forward to a red wave in Singapore by the winning of WP, SDP, and PSP.